This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming back the hilarious, the talented, the gorgeous Amanda Goldstein Marks. It's been 4 years since we last did a podcast, right? And since then, a lot has happened. The pandemic, the world has been getting weirder and weirder. And I always love talking to her. And we're going to have a great conversation today. She is the co-host with her sister, Allison Goldstein, a podcast called Sis Tell that is hilarious. They've been doing it for a long, long time now, and I recommend everyone go check it out. They talk about various things, and they're just so adorable and funny together as they are on FaceTime talking about stuff. And she's a stand-up comedian, as I said, and we're going to talk about lots of stuff regarding, stand-up in the world and whatever stuff I've listened to her on her podcast and so forth. And also, too, back in June, I had the wonderful Shelley Herman on here talking about her book, My Peacock Tale. And I just got a copy recently, and I've been reading it. It's a real page-turner, and there's just one part that I've just been pondering for days. She said that she had sex with the sitcom star that was very handsome, very studly, of a sitcom that started, at that time. And I've been going on Wikipedia and trying to ponder who is Jake. That's the guy's book name. Who is Jake? It's not Don Rickles. It's not Michael Constantine. It's not Henry Pollock II. None of those guys are sexy and manly and so forth. So who is Jake, Shelley? Who is it? That's all I ask is for who is it. And I know you want to protect the guy's anonymity because, he's not around anymore, but his family is. But it's just like, who is Jake? I mean, you two got to do it on a boat. That is just so friggin' amazing. But either way, go check out My Peacock Tale. So yeah, here is my new interview with Amanda Goldstein Marks.
Hey.
Hey, Amanda. Welcome back. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. How's summer going?
It feels over because our kids have started school already.
Yeah. Yep, I can imagine. It's been 4 years since we did a podcast last, and at that time, I was in a dark place. A lot of shit had happened, but the pandemic has really humbled me in so many ways. And this summer, I turned 40. I moved to Modesto. I'm fighting diabetes, and climate change is driving me insane. I can't complain.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, how's stand-up going?
It's going, it just depends on the week. Sometimes I have a lot of shows. Sometimes they're few and far between. But life seems to get into the way of some things. But also, it's a good, right? So I often choose my shows based on, is this going to make me happy in the moment? So sometimes driving an hour and a half on a Wednesday night at 9 p.m. is not going to make me happy to perform for 15 minutes. I'd rather be at home.
Oh yeah, especially when you're doing stand up and you have a family, you got to really check your priorities and make sure that everything hits the mark.
Yeah, and my oldest is a senior in high school, so I'm pretty particular about what I'm choosing to do with my time, just because this is it. This is our last year with him, so just trying to make as the cliche goes, every second count.
Oh, I really appreciate you coming on again. I really do.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. So did COVID hurt you in any way?
I mean, I think it had an impact on everyone's mental health, everyone's priorities. I definitely tried to find ways to still entertain people. I did a lot of Zoom shows, which I kept on telling people, Zoom comedy shows are not stand-up. It's just a different, it's a different thing. It's a different sort of entertainment, but I would not categorize it as stand-up. But it is performing, and still was creating content. Just I'm someone who I'm pretty extroverted, and I think I get a lot of energy just from being emotional calories from being around people. So it was hard not to be around people.
Yeah, I saw Zoom stand-up shows. I saw Zoom Comic Cons, and I was just like, this is fucking awkward.
Yeah, it's, and at a certain point, like I actually had a show I was producing, and at a certain point we're like, are we going to cancel the show or turn it into a Zoom show? And people weren't, at least in Atlanta, that was still a fairly new thing for us to do a Zoom show. And so it was just, but I still remember doing it in my closet and just trying to figure it out. And one of the comedians quickly adapted to, just the different form of just being in people's living rooms, and was super funny, and using the green screen and doing weird things. And I was, I think doing material that you've heard of close-up magic. It was like close-up comedy, right? So it allowed you to kind of have conversations with people in a way that you don't usually do when you're on stage. And fortunately for me, I do my podcast remotely with my sister. We're coming on 7 years in May, so we're almost at 6.5 years at this point. Congrats. And we're used to just looking at each other and entertaining each other through a Skype call. So it was not as bizarre for me as it, I think, has been for some other people who weren't used to kind of entertaining through that way.
Right. Wow. That's so awesome, though. Yeah, because I've seen you post things, regarding your gigs and so forth, and I can see. I mean, everything's going great. I mean, you've really promoted yourself well, and you look like you're having a great time with everything.
Yeah, I love being on stage. My sister makes fun of me, and she's talks about how I need to be the center of attention because I'm the youngest child, but it's it's not, it's a little more nuanced than that, because it's not about me being center of attention. It's about, I just like entertaining people. And it feels different, right? I'm not pay attention to me, because I want positive attention. I want to make people happy and make people laugh. And I do still produce comedy shows as well, which is a whole different type of stress. I feel compelled to produce my own shows, but I also don't love it, right? So I'm always why am I doing this? But I don't know. I just feel compelled to always be producing my own thing, mainly because I think I've learned no matter what career you're in, that you just have to kind of make things happen for yourself, right? And I think producing a comedy show is one of those things.
This is, one of the better times to do it, in this era. And that's good, though, that you've been able to juggle between having a comedy career and family. You haven't become Julie Kavner and This Is My Life.
Yeah, I'd put career in heavy quotes also. I mean, I definitely make money off of comedy, but it's barely enough it may be enough to pay a bill once a year. Right. It just depends on what I have a private gig I'm doing in a couple of weeks, and so that pays more than probably what I've gotten paid in a full year. Right. But those gigs don't come around too often.
Is it a corporate gig?
Oh, it's for a nonprofit.
Oh, cool.
It's a fundraiser.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you still performing in the sex store?
Oh, yeah, that show. Let's see. It was one of the last shows I did before COVID hit. and then my friend that I was co-producing it with had been working at the store, and her boyfriend's dad owned the store, and then they broke up. So I'm sure, and she wouldn't care. I'm sure I could get back in touch with him and be like, hey, you want to keep that show going? But I'm also okay just letting that die in the vine.
Yeah. Die in the vine. I like that. So I watched that video you posted a few months ago where you talked about how you and your college friends were almost sued by the producers of The Real World. What happened?
So when I was a freshman, I started becoming involved in this Boston University television show called Overexposed, and it was like a sketch comedy show that was produced and written and acted by students at BU, and it was supposed to air on like our BU's cable access network, basically, which was just, I think, shown in the Union, maybe. I never actually saw it anywhere. So somehow sophomore year, I became quote unquote executive producer of it, just because I think I was the only person who volunteered, and we barely got any shows off the ground. Nothing was fine. We never had a final episode. We just recorded a lot of stuff. We would have writers meetings, and we'd record some in studio sketches, and I don't think anything ever came to fruition though. But we had this idea. The Real World Boston was in town shooting, and I was like, you know what? I bet we could get away with a lot of stuff, because if people think we're shooting this reality show, I think people would be more forgiving, and we wanted to see what we could get away with. So everyone got really excited about it. Someone made fake credentials, like they got like laminated badges. People had clipboards. Like we all took on roles of, I'll be the production assistant, I'll be the director, I'll be the camera person. Yeah. And then we had, some of the actors who were on camera for our other sketches. They're like, oh, we'll be the cast. And I don't know how, but our newspaper, the Free Press, got a hold of this idea that we had, and they were going to follow us as we went around Boston trying to pull these pranks. Mm-hmm. And we all met at like 9 a.m. to get started, only to realize that the battery pack for the camera was dead. This is how organized we were, right? Like we were all like 19. There were like no seniors who had gone through it to know like, hey, these are some things that you might want to keep in mind, right? Like it's one of the reasons why you volunteer for those things is so you have these experiences where things go wrong, so that the next time you know how to troubleshoot. And we did not have enough life or work or internship experiences to kind of look for pitfalls that we were going to fall into. So we kind of just gave up on the shoot and said we would reschedule it. But meantime, the reporter from the Free Press decided to write the article anyway. And I don't know why, they would tell Boston that we were getting ready to prank them when we hadn't pranked them yet. So evidently there was a Boston University student who was an intern on the Real World set and came across the article and took it to the producers of The Real World. Fast forward to that morning where I get a phone call in my dorm room. And at this point, it was like a Saturday morning, and I had been looking for an apartment for the next year. And I was waiting to hear back from like those people you pay to find apartments for you, and like an apartment agent or whatever, a real estate agent. And so I woke up immediately as soon as I got a phone call in my dorm, and I was like, oh, it's about my apartment. And someone goes, hold the line, please, and who is it? Mary Ellis Bunham, right? Uh-huh. And I was like, what? And then she got on the phone with me and was like really upset.
Wow.
It was like, and all I remember is her threatening to sue us and legality this and legality that. And I think she was flipping out because Boston was it was really hard for them to get location releases, right? They had a really tough time, and we were going to come in and kind of like fuck shit up, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was like, well, cancel it. We're not doing it. It's not happening. Don't worry. It's canceled. And she had also called our professor. We had like a sponsor, we had to have a teacher sponsor Overexposed, just like any school club. And they called him too. And he's like, oh my God, you don't need to worry. They're so disorganized. Nothing is going to happen. I wouldn't even worry about it. Cause I called him up and I was like freaking out. I was like, I'm never going to get a job at Viacom. And so then I had to go and tell the crew and all the cast members from Overexposed what had happened, thinking they would be on the same page, right? They'd totally get it. And they'd be like, oh my God, that's so scary. But this one guy was like, fuck MTV, fuck Viacom, we're doing it. And everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, I go, y'all, I'm the executive producer on this. Y'all won't get in trouble. I will. I'm the one who's going to have to take the heat for us, and I don't want to do it. And we got into this really big argument. And in hindsight, I should have just listened to them, and we should have just done it, because that guy ended up being executive producer of The Daily Show.
Oh, man.
He's probably should have been in charge. I should have just passed the baton to him. I should have been like, you take over. Here. You'll do a much better job.
Yeah, everything that's ever been popular in the history of entertainment or the world has been stolen. Whether it's jokes from comedians, screenplays, ideas, etc., everything's been stolen. Nothing is truly original at the end of the day. Did you know that Tron was written by a woman?
I didn't. I don't know anything about Tron, so
yeah.
You could have told me it was written by a 10-year-old, and I would have been like, okay.
Yeah, I interviewed her last year. I was the first podcast she ever did. She refuses to talk about Tron for over 40 years until a mutual friend who's very close to her, who did the show, told her how awesome and knowledgeable I am. And we did it, and I feel blessed that I got the inside scoop on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. There's a guy named Rig Kennedy. He's been a character actor forever. He claimed he wrote E.T., but he's got no tangible proof or anything. I've been trying to get in touch with him. Yeah, there's all these people you find out about. Yeah. They did things,
There's someone, I don't know who claims they wrote Coming to America and not
Art Buchwald,
Eddie Murphy, and Arsenio Hall.
Yeah, Art Buchwald. He was a columnist who wrote a humor column, and he wrote the story about a guy coming from Russia to America and working at McDonald's, and Paramount was interested in buying it, and then they weren't, and then they just gave it to Eddie. That's allegedly what happened.
Oh man, interesting. You should have him on.
Art Buchwald. He has done so many interviews for it. I don't know if I could get anything new from him from it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's crazy. It really is. Yeah, and then I listened to an old episode of Sis Tell where you mentioned that you went into a Scientology building once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that Congress is like, hey, UFOs are real, I'm like, oh my God, the Scientologists now have even more fodder for their advertising campaigns. But yeah, when I was it was the summer before freshman year of college, and I was a summer camp counselor in this small town in Massachusetts, and we had a day off, and we drove to Boston, and we passed the Scientology center, and there's like a sign that says free testing, and I'm like, oh my God, I love taking those quizzes in Sassy Magazine. So I'm like, let's go inside. So me and my friend Joel went inside, and they put us in separate rooms, and we had to take it was like 300 questions. It was a crazy amount of questions, and I didn't really understand where the questioning was going. And some of the things were like, do you hit yourself in the head? Yeah. And what can we help you with? And I saw it as like, oh, it's like we're meeting with a psychic. And so anyway, they kept on trying to upsell me on the book, and I wouldn't. I was like, I'm just a poor college student. I have no money. And I refused to buy it from them. and then left. And then I came out, and our other friends had been just like waiting for us. And I'm like, where's Joel? And they're like, he's stuck inside. And we had to go inside and get him from this conference room. They were like, we went in there and they were like banging on this table and yelling at him. And he was like cowering, being like, what the hell is happening right now?
Yeah.
So it was just interesting to see how they handled our different personalities, and how, I escaped on my own and we had to extricate him from the situation.
It wasn't like the episode of Boy Meets World where Styles from Teen Wolf is the cult leader and he keeps gaslighting you.
I have not seen that episode. Now I'm going to go watch it.
Oh, it's a classic. Everyone from my generation, I'm a little bit younger than you, but like everybody of my generation who was in junior high or high school at that time remembers that episode. Like I could bring it up to anybody and they're like, yeah, Styles is a cult leader. Yeah, it's a funny episode, and it's scary too because it does happen. Yeah, most of the actors who decline to do my podcast are in Scientology because they hear sci-fi at the beginning and they probably think I'm going to give them shit, which I would never do, But I have to tell you, during the pandemic, there were some Scientologists who actually came on, and I don't know if they actually listened or not, or they cared. And then there's some who turned me down 4 or 5 years ago that actually said yes in the last year because I've developed this reputation for being a lot of fun, So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's interesting. Now they're going to listen to this episode and be like, I don't know. You had that lady on and she was bad mouthing us.
Oh, I've talked about it before, It's nothing new. I do support Leah Remini, though, with all the things that are coming to head with that group and stuff. I can't stand cults,
Yeah.
I just think that everything has become a cult now. Everything in life. I mean, even I was in one when I was hanging out at this bar for 2.5 years. I mean, they had a real cult-like mentality. Because I became part of the inner circle where, like, I'm staying till closing, and then we're all cleaning up, and we're all sneaking booze for free, as we clean up, and just we have this sacred bond of, like, what happens here does not leave this room. And then it got weird. It got to a point where they were saying you can't associate with this person, which became really stinky because once I was homeless and I was taken in by someone who was thrown out of the circle, I was thrown out of the circle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's when you know you're in a cult. That's when you truly know you're in a cult.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Now, I would, however, give orgasmic meditation a try if I could.
Have you seen Wild Wild Country?
No.
Well, it's a documentary about this cult in the 80s that popped up in Oregon, but it was based in India, and they moved to Oregon and tried to take over almost the entire state. And I'll just leave it at that, in that they have so much original footage from the 80s. Like, they documented everything.
Uh-huh.
So you're not getting reenactments and just talking heads. Like, you're like, this really happened because there's the footage, and it's from them. It's not like some outside person was documenting it. They were documenting it within them, within their own cult.
They were doing like a Disney Takes Over Florida kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. They were trying, basically, yeah.
Yeah. No, I saw that documentary though about orgasmic meditation where that woman. I can't even believe I didn't even know about this because it was in the Bay Area where I'm from. Yeah, this woman, she started this orgasmic meditation cult, and it got to a point where rapey things started happening, and money was starting to be made, and it was really creepy.
Creepy, yeah.
Yeah. And that segues into these next few anecdotes. I recently got my first prostate exam.
Oh, fun.
No, it was a letdown.
I got my first.
Go ahead.
It wasn't as exciting. I got my first colonoscopy.
Okay, tell me about that first.
Well, I was asleep, so I don't know what actually happened other than I actually made a TikTok video asking for suggestions of what to write on my butt.
Uh-huh.
so that when, before they did the procedure, I'd leave a little note um, for the nurses and specialists who were, taking care of business. So, but then I felt, they put me to sleep, so I don't know what actually happened other than the nurse telling me afterwards that they thought it was very funny when I wrote them in butt.
Well, did you wake up sore or wet or anything that would hint something happened?
No, I was fine. No pain.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, no, it was a big letdown for me. I went to get my A1C levels checked back in April because of my diabetes, which I got diagnosed in April of last year. And she said, okay, you're going to be 40 in a few months, so I think it's time for your first prostate exam. And I was like, yes, I've been waiting for the finger forever. Yes. So the diagnostics clinic that we were going to at our local Safeway grocery store, they closed down all of a sudden, which was weird. And so we had to go to this clinic that I think my mom had to go to one time, but I had never been. So I go into the room, and this cute nurse is there, and she had these really beautiful hands, and I was like, okay, I wouldn't mind having that finger in my butt. She's got nice hands. So she gives me the blood test, and she's like, okay, you can go now. And I'm like, oh, what about the prostate exam? And she said, oh, no, this was part of it. The blood test was part of it. I'm like, what? I was like, why did this happen all of a sudden? I guess it was a combination of the pandemic and Me Too or something. I don't know. But
They don't, right? They don't do that anymore.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, oh God, I was really let down. I was really let down. Because I don't know if I told you this before, but I'm bi and I like taking it. So I was just totally disappointed by that. But
Sorry for your disappointment. You might have to schedule something through Craigslist too.
yeah, I don't know, but I was just like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I did a podcast recently with an old girlfriend of mine that I've known since we were in kindergarten, and our brothers are 9 years older than us and the same age, and they were best friends and stuff. And she told me before we did it, she's like, you can talk about the time that we went to prom, but you can't mention the time you fingered me.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, because back in junior high and high school, that was like my reputation. Like I gave the best finger quickies.
Oh,
Yeah,
crazy.
it was akin to composing an opera, as I was told. Okay, moving on from that. So I can't believe I've never asked you this before, but what's your favorite movie of all time?
So I'm not good with these. What's your favorite ... Because it just depends on like how I'm feeling. But there's definitely movies that
Okay, how about
I
favorite
can
genre?
I can watch. There's movies like I can watch all the time. Like if they're on, right? I'm like, oh my god, let's watch that. Like I love most of all the Indiana Jones. Um, my favorite genre though is definitely sci-fi. Not so much horror, but
Hmm.
like anything that establishes like a sci-fi world in
Yeah.
it. But I do love like the Alien and Predator series,
Hmm.
and I love Harry Potter. I love Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Like those things that really create this other world. I've been trying to find a lot of documentaries lately on all the alien stuff because after that Congress announcement, I was like, I need more information, and there's really no more information. Really, it's everyone's like regurgitating the same information.
Yeah. How about Blade Runner? That's like my favorite sci-fi movie.
You know, I think I saw it when I was younger, and I haven't seen it as an adult.
Hmm.
So I couldn't even um, tell you what my opinion is on it.
If you see it again, you'll be blown away because it holds up. There's the director's cut, there's the theatrical cut. Um, I like the I like the theatrical cut a little bit more. because it's got Harrison Ford's voiceover, and I think it really provides a great like classic noir feel to it because it is a neo noir story about a detective, and I just love that movie. I think it's an unbridled masterpiece, you know. But if you want to go a little bit lighter, of course, I love the original Star Wars, like Episode 4, A New Hope. I just think
Hmm.
that it was everything that it meant to be of changing the pop culture zeitgeist and becoming this worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah, I much to like most, I think Star Wars fans' chagrin, I found one of the Ewok movies on Disney Plus
So yeah,
and watched it. My boys were like, "What the hell are you watching?" And I'm like, "It is. It was like a made-for-TV Ewok movie that I
yes.
couldn't believe they put it on. I was so excited because I just had this like memory of watching it when I was little. So
Yeah, the Ewok Adventure. I remembered that on Disney Channel. It was on a lot back then, and I actually interviewed the lead kid, Eric Walker, in it. Man, that guy, he had a pretty sad trajectory about how he got into acting. He had just lost his mother, and his father thought, it'd be great if he got into acting, and he did it for a little bit, and then now he's like into Christian ministry or something now.
oh, interesting.
Yeah. But like you gravitate toward the sci-fi genre mainly.
Yes,
You're
yeah.
you're not a rom-com type of gal.
Not really. No, my daughter watches rom coms and I'll watch them with her, but that is definitely not my go to. I love sci-fi. Like the new Meg that's out. Like I'm like that. I got to go to the movie theater to watch that.
Yeah.
It's like a terrible like any like shark movies. I just for the first time I can't believe I didn't know about it. I watched 65, which is like apocalyptic and aliens and dinosaurs and all in one, and it's that was such a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah. How about the TV show?
Um, gosh, I'm trying to think of what TV shows I'm watching right now. That I feel like that changes, and I think I the most short form I digest is I'm just constantly watching TikTok.
Hmm.
I can't even. I was watching some cult documentaries, which is why I mentioned Wild Wild Country.
Hmm.
And I go through ebbs and flows. I think there's nothing that I'm currently binging right now.
Yeah. I mean, everything now is streaming shows now. But like back in the day, I mean, I've always been a Simpsons fan. I was into, Seinfeld and all the classic Gary Marshall sitcoms and Norman Lear sitcoms of the '70s, '80s.
All classics.
Yeah, exactly. A couple weeks ago, I interviewed this comedian from Boston, Ken Reed, who has a podcast called TV Guidance Counselor, and we were talking about all that stuff about the classic television, history and stuff. I got this one guy coming on Friday who's like an expert of '50s and '60s, like the evolution of television. That I'm gonna have a great conversation with. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
Yeah. How about favorite bands?
Well, I mean, the Beastie Boys will always be top.
Yeah. Oh my God, that video for "You've Got to Fight for Your Right to Party." They they, they had a pie fight in the video. After by the end of the day, the smell in there was so foul that everyone just cleared out. Because they had all this whipped cream that had been being tossed around all day and stuff. From those pies, it was just rancid, from what I was told.
Oh, that's funny that you have that little intel.
Oh yeah, well I read about it on Wikipedia. I thought that was an interesting anecdote. Yeah, I love "She's on It." That was their first like single. That was the first one that got them exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that guitar is so awesome on it too. It was actually taken from a Billy Squier song, a really obscure Squier song.
Hmm. I gotta go look that up.
Hmm. Have you done any acting roles lately?
Just a lot of auditioning. I have an audition tonight for a sketch comedy series. Um, so I'm excited about that. And with all the strikes going on, it's mainly been auditioning for a lot of commercials.
Mm-hmm. And have you done any commercials lately?
Nope, just auditions. So just that's about it. Just the auditions.
Yeah. Would you do something that was sci-fi?
100%. If someone wanted to put me in something, I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, you could be you could be the comedy relief. You could be what Paul Reiser was in Aliens. Yeah, that would be awesome. So you
Oh, that's so funny because he was in Stranger Things also.
Oh yes, I don't doubt that. I mean, everyone. It seems like everyone's doing Stranger Things now.
Yeah, which I've auditioned for. not, not lately, but their auditions are real interesting because they want everyone basically to wear something very simple, no makeup, pull your hair back. I guess so people, they can really picture someone and as one of their characters without being distracted by whatever modern clothes or hairstyle they have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I remember the first time we talked. You told me the story of the Jewish camp dick pic that you took.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious. Have you ever seen the movie Gorp?
No.
1980 Jewish camp raunchy teen comedy with Dennis Quaid, Rosanna Arquette, Fran Drescher, and
Oh my gosh.
I interviewed the writer and producer of the movie.
Yeah.
His wife is an actress. She came on here and then she connected me with him, and that he also wrote Silent Night, Bloody Night, a horror movie in 1972, and he also wrote this great supernatural horror movie, The Sentinel, and this was the third movie he wrote. It was the last one. He got out of the business and became a lawyer, and now he's trying to do a remake of The Sentinel, and oh my god, it's a very funny movie. And he told me, Des Quaid is the only one who's not Jewish who's in the movie, and he said that they wanted a lead actor who wasn't Jewish to play Jewish, and the director Joseph Rubin directed him in like four movies, including my favorite Dreamscape, which was made a few years after this, and stuff. And yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And I was just thinking the other day, I was like, I gotta get at least a VHS copy because I still collect VHS tapes of Gorp and watch it. And I was like, I wonder if Amanda's seen it because of that dick pic story.
Oh my god, no, but I want to now.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, because when everyone was making a teen movie out of something, but I thought that was pretty clever, making it about a Jewish summer camp.
I'm gonna watch it and see if I think it rings true.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's on Blu-ray or anything. It could be, I don't know, but yeah, I would definitely get it. So that is so cool. 7 years, almost 7 years now that you and your sister have been doing your podcast and stuff, and you guys never run out of things to talk about.
Not really. We we tend to just kind of talk about whatever's happening or what's happened that week. So as long as we keep living, there's always something to talk about. And, we definitely rehash things that happened a long time ago, but we pretty much know each other's stories. Once in a while, we'll come across something that we don't know, and it's kind of fun to unearth that.
Yeah, would you ever do a podcast where you interview your favorite celebrities?
Probably not.
It's a lot of work, and you deal with a lot of narcissistic bullshit, but it can be
Yeah.
rewarding. I mean, 1800 and 60ish interviews now. I'm just so blessed. I've just talked to people that I never thought I would.
I'm just happy talking to my sister. We get people who reach out to us all the time who are like, "Oh, can we be a guest on your podcast?" My first question is, "Have you listened to my podcast?" Because then you would know, like, we don't have guests on, right? It's just about our dynamic and us chit chatting with each other. So, yeah, it's funny because, like, you would think our demographic for listeners would be Southern Jewish women.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are. But there's a lot of these, like, non-Jewish 50-something men who are big fans. And I know this because they reach out to us. Or, like, I was at a premiere for an indie film a week ago, and standing in line they did themed drinks in the lobby, and I was standing in line and tapped the person in front of me. I'm like, I just want to make sure I'm standing in the right line. And his friend knew my friend, and my friend's like, "Oh, this is Amanda," and he's like, "I know Amanda. I listen to her podcast." And I'm like, "You do?" So every time I meet someone who's like not my relative or not Jewish, I'm like, "How in the world did you find out about my podcast?" It's crazy to me.
That is strange, yeah. But thank you for not sending those people to me, because I get people that are wanting to come on and stuff, and they're just weird all the time.
Yeah.
It goes with the territory, But
Well, these people aren't even like in the pop culture realm. It's like someone has a small business, or they're a life coach, or they're selling something, or they're a marketer. Like, it has nothing to do with our podcast. And I'm like, you need to do a better job of researching. Like, why would you want to be on our podcast? It's not relevant to you or our listeners.
my friend Greg, who lives up in Canada, he's had a podcast a little bit longer than I have, and he'll literally give a platform to just about anybody, and I'm just like, oh my god, you gotta be careful, man. People can get weird, and like. I mean, he can do the interview okay and stuff, but it's just the after effects of it, of people being weird with him and stuff. And I've told them to be more selective, and I hope he does in the future.
Yeah. To each their own. People figure it out,
Yeah.
You got to figure out whatever your format is and stick with it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you're one of the few I still talk to from like the early years of people that don't come from the past of nostalgia and everything. And because, oh my God, so many people I talked to that ended up being dicks that are more current and stuff. And I just got to a point where it's just like, I don't need that anymore and stuff. But the people that I met along the way that were good to me, like yourself, I cherish you people.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, of course. I reached out to your sister during the pandemic, but I think the message went to her spam folder. I wanted to talk shop with her about interviewing celebrities.
Yeah.
But hopefully eventually, it'll happen and stuff. But this is your third time with me. I've been doing this 6 years now, and I did my fifth anniversary show last year, and I asked everyone this. What is it about me that keeps you coming back? And that's what I'd like to ask you.
Well, I think you ask interesting questions, and you're fun to talk to, and you're just a nice guy.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you see the vulnerability underneath the body humor and pop culture knowledge.
Yeah. I see it. I see you, Tommy.
Oh, well, I mean, you have a deep innie belly button.
It's true.
Your Southern hospitality. I love Jewish women in general, and you're not easily offended.
Oh, yeah. I am not. Sometimes I am, but it's very specific things.
Yes, and that's what I love about you. You just got so much light shining through you.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, of course. If you could have anything named after you, what would it be?
Oh, an adorable dog.
An adorable dog.
Someone's pet that they loved. Like, I named it Amanda. I love it when pets have really human names.
Oh, Yeah, my dog's name is Abby, and my cat is named Cinnamon. And we call her Cinny or Cinny Moo. We're just giving her little nicknames all the time. My brother calls her Cinnabon. You know.
Yeah. I grew up next door to this cat named Jason.
Yeah.
just a funny name for a cat, and the cat would always get loose and come over to our house. And one time it ran into our house, and like my mom and my brother are both like insanely allergic to cats, and I'm not a big cat fan, so I was chasing it around with oven gloves because I was worried it was going to bite me. So I eventually got it out.
If I could have anything named after me, it would probably be a vibrator.
Oh God. They call it the Tommy gun.
Oh, that's pretty good, but I was actually thinking about the Tommy Chatsy. You know, it's fuel injected.
Oh, man.
I have a joke for you. What do you call a boy that doesn't masturbate?
I have no idea.
A liar.
Oh.
So do you have any gigs you want to plug?
Sure. I've got a show coming up on Sunday called Top Shelf Comedy on August 20th at Distillery of Modern Art. But if you are not in Atlanta, you can always find me on TikTok or Instagram at Mall of Amanda.
Mall of Amanda. That sounds so cool. I like that.
Well, the name came, I used to work at Cartoon Network a lifetime ago, and
Wow.
I was in the consumer products department, and I would get all this stuff from our vendors, and at some point I was like, I'm going to sell this on eBay. So I had to name my store, so I called it Mall of Amanda, and I created a Gmail for it, and then I just started using that just across the board for all my handles, and so my website, Instagram, to anytime I have a new social media account, Mall of Amanda is my go-to moniker.
What did you do at Cartoon Network?
So I was, for most of the time there, I was in the consumer products department. I did everything from managing our publishing business, so working on comics and coloring and activity books and chapter books, and working on Adult Swim consumer products, and then home entertainment for both Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, minus the like home entertainment part. I was basically a liaison between our licensees and then our internal team to make sure everything was on brand, and that whether it was the way our cartoons were being depicted, or if it was, a chapter book, that it was written in a way that was on brand with how the shows were done. A lot of times I would find show writers who would want to also write comic books or the chapter books. And then with home entertainment, we didn't have a licensee, so we were manufacturing everything. So I was in charge of developing, like working with the design department to develop line looks for the different shows and what the special features were, and the advertising campaigns, and pitching it to sales teams to help them pitch it to retailers, and coming up with cross-promotional opportunities. I worked a lot with the show creators also on stuff, especially Adult Swim consumer products, because they were really, the Robot Chicken guys were super excited to have products, and as you can imagine. And then for anything on DVD, they were really, it was their show. That's their show. So they were very involved in the creation of DVDs.
Wow, I used to watch Robot Chicken. I fucking loved it. It was something I looked forward to all the time.
It's a great show.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That Harry and the Hendersons parody where he's jacking off in front of them, saying goodbye at the end of the movie, or like there's a Karate Kid parody, and I think it was kind of like a cross parody between that and Kill Bill or something. It was so brilliant. I used to watch that in Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a couple of VOs for Aqua Teen.
Who you did?
Yeah, there's this one episode where Carl calls a sex phone line but doesn't want to doesn't want to pay for it, so he listens to the operator at the beginning over and over again. And I'm the sex phone operator. And then there's another time where it may be the same episode, where he's going through his yearbook and is calling random people and trying to get them to have phone sex with him. And so I played Donna from from his high school. And then there's another time, you know how sometimes they would put like real TV shows on the TV when they're watching it? So we had to do, I was on the shoot, we were just doing yoga. I'm sure Carl was also, using that to masturbate to also. And then I was on Squidbillies, very, very minor roles, but it was really fun. Yeah.
That grandma squid, she's a little nympho.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Now my oldest is like, loves Squidbillies. It's so funny. It's a great show.
So their headquarters is based in Atlanta?
Yeah, they've dwindled down the originals staff. Left and right, people are losing their jobs, and it's been bought and sold so many times. So it was over at William Street, which I don't know if they've moved William Street or if William Street's still there. I don't really know where they are anymore.
Wow. You're an onion.
But Robot Chicken, that was done in L.A.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I know that because of Seth Green and all that.
Yeah.
Wow. You are an onion with many layers, Amanda, and I thank you so much for coming back on today. Hopefully next time it won't be another 4 years from now.
Or it can be our tradition.
Yes, exactly.
Every 4 years.
You have a great rest of your summer. Kill at those gigs and be safe out there, hun.
Thanks, Tommy. Good to talk to you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. Amanda Goldstein Marks. Ain't she a sweetheart? I just love her. She's so much fun and so funny. Wow, I didn't know about the Cartoon Network. That's so great that we got to talk about that stuff today. Go see her. She is hilarious. Listen to her podcast, Sis Tell, available on podcast streaming platforms all over, I guess. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes.